This is Land of Havilah, Psalm 47. It's 9 verses. Verse 1. For the chief musician, a psalm by the sons of Korah. O clap your hands, all you nations. Shout to God with the voice of triumph. For Yahweh Most High is awesome. He's a great king over all the earth. He subdues nations under us and peoples under our feet. He chooses our inheritance for us, the glory of Jacob whom he loved. Selah. God has gone up with a shout, Yahweh with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God, sing praises to our King, sing praises. For God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with understanding. God reigns over the nations. God sits on his holy throne. The princes of the peoples are gathered together, the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He's greatly exalted. Comment verses 1 and 2 are self-explanatory that every nation should clap their hands and rejoice because Yahweh is the great and awesome King. He's not just a national God, tribal God, or God of the region, but over all the earth. He's cause for celebration. In verses 3 and 4, God subdues nations under Jacob, which is Israel, and gives them an inheritance. As recorded in the Old Testament, God subdued the nations of Canaan under Israel to a greater or lesser degree as time went by. The background of it was that God told Abraham and Moses that he would thrust the Canaanites out of the land because of their iniquity in favor of the Israelites, which he did, but he said if Israel acts the way they're acting, I'll thrust Israel out too, which he did in time. But in prophecy being fulfilled as we speak, and to be fulfilled in the future, God says he's grafting believing Gentiles into believing Israel, making one new nation of them, and he'll, in the end times, he'll subdue the entire earth under them. We'll have to see it happen to know all the details. The point is that he's promised in the end times to subdue the earth under us. Israel's conquest of the Promised Land was a foreshadowing of the conquest of God's people over the entire earth in Christ. Just to cite some documentation of that, the Father promised Jesus, quote, "Ask me, and I'll make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession," Psalm 2:8. And according to 2 Timothy 2:12, quote, "If we endure, we'll also reign with him," end quote. So the conquests of Israel were a microcosm, a prophetic foreshadowing of God's people ruling the entire earth in the end times with Christ as King. In verse 4 of the psalm, he'll choose our inheritance for us, end quote. Jacob's inheritance in the Old Testament was land, the Promised Land, and in the case of the Levites, their inheritance wasn't land, but rather the tithes of Israel, and God himself, Numbers 18, 20, and 21. That was a prophetic foreshadowing with application to Christians as well. In Christ, quote, "We were assigned an inheritance," Ephesians 1:11. Our inheritance is rich and glorious, Ephesians 1:18. It'll be a reward for serving Christ, Colossians 3:24. It's eternal, Hebrews 9:15. It's incorruptible and undefiled, reserved in heaven for us, 1 Peter 1:4. We have a dwelling place in the Father's house prepared for us, that where Christ is, we may be also, John 14:1-3. Most of the details of our inheritance are yet to be revealed, and we could cite more details, but basically we'll be with Christ in a glorious place. That's our inheritance if we endure, 2 Timothy 2:12. Therefore, in verses 5 to 8 of the psalm, there's more rejoicing over the fact that our marvelous God is on the throne. Then in the last verse, verse 9, the people of the God of Abraham are gathered together. It's another major theme of the Bible that all God's people will be gathered to himself in the final summation of things. The Israelites camping in the desert were a picture of it, not the deprivations of the desert, but the fact that they were all together and Yahweh was dwelling directly with them in the tabernacle in the middle of the camp. The Feast of Tabernacles was a reenactment of it every year. Israelites built temporary shelters in and around Jerusalem and hung out with each other and with Yahweh for 7 days straight every fall. But while that feast was a reenactment of the past, it was also a prophetic foreshadowing that all God's people will be together with him. Psalm 48 is next.